folks? Jeremiah here, and this is the way I see it. Today's guest, we have a wonderful woman who you probably know from several different Pentecostal churches around San Antonio. This is my mother, the woman who's responsible for bringing me into this lovely world, and the one and only person that I could ever trust with anything, Sandra Elaine Castañeda, my mom. Welcome to the show, Mom.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here, and I appreciate you doing this. Now, I know you're a little nervous, so I just want you to know that, all this is more just about getting to know you and, getting to know your perspective on everything today. There's a lot of things that we've talked about. For the most part, you've always been an open book to me, so I just want the people who listen to the show, the people who are a part of my life, and the people who are interested in your perspective. You know what I mean? I know you've had a pretty rough life, but what I want to dive into today is, just the polarizing events that it was like raising me, raising 3 children, in the circumstances you were given, and of course, kind of the tough choices you had to make along the way, and gain perspective on all that. Because I know being a parent myself, I know being a parent is hard. I mean, what do you think? Being a parent's pretty tough, don't you think?
Yes, from experience.
I mean, and considering that you do have to make a lot of tough decisions, I think the first one that we all kind of have to make, especially when a child is conceived, and it's not planned, as it were in my case, or as it were in your case, there's one decision that speaks volumes, and I think it's the decision to keep me. I'd like to ask you, what went through your mind when you found out you were pregnant, especially knowing that the father wasn't going to be involved, or he said he would, but I know things went differently. So tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, on that, it was just that it's difficult when you have an unplanned pregnancy. My life was already difficult before that, and then it just added to all the rest of the difficulties, and then just the thought of being a single parent, which no new mom wants to be.
Right.
You want the love, you want the marriage, you want it to work.
You want the family.
You want the family.
Right.
Yes, and you don't expect for them just to dip out on you, and go cold.
Yeah.
So that in itself was a reality check.
And then was it difficult to make that decision, or do you think that decision wasn't your own, to keep me, or to maybe think about, did you even consider abortion at any time?
I was asked the question, but abortion didn't cross my mind because I already knew, the God that I believed in. I already knew where I stood with that,
So it was more of a religious-based decision rather than...
Actually, it was all around. It was more my heart. I didn't, even though the relationship didn't go where I wanted it to, I wanted to have my child and keep my child, and see what you grew up to be.
That's pretty good. Yeah. Honestly, I think the similarities between us and between me wanting to see where my son went as well too, because I know my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time. She was my girlfriend. She was very young when she had her baby. When we had my son Damien, and then you were very young. How old were you when you had me again?
19.
You were 19.
19 going on 20, I believe.
You had just graduated?
No, I graduated at the age of 18.
Okay. Yeah.
In 84, I graduated. You were born in 85.
Right. Yeah. So, I'm sure it was pretty nerve-wracking, considering that, one, you had this life, underprivileged, as you could say.
Yes, very.
Very underprivileged.
Yes.
And then, of course, you realized that you had a whole nother life to look after.
Yes. that was the
That was me.
yes. But it wasn't just a whole nother life. It was the fact that I already was in a position to where nothing was working out, let alone getting into this relationship and then him backing away completely and just leaving me to myself,
Kind of high and dry.
really high and dry, you know, having nothing to begin with. But thank God, I did have a family member that opened the door to me.
You want to give her a special shout out? Maybe she might hear it one day.
No, not at this time. I'm gonna keep it low key and
Okay.
not mention names.
That's fine.
Because it's
It's
gonna
more
be a
it's
touchy subject.
it's more credit than anything. If honestly you think about it, this is a person who helped you when you were in need, and she
Yeah.
kind of got you out of a bad situation, don't you think?
Yes.
What was the reason that you moved in with that person, if you don't mind me asking?
I was already living with her at one time. I did get asked 6 different times from her home to get married, and as I trusted the process at that point and wanted to be married and wanted my child to have his dad, I kept, I went with it, wanting to get out of one place to move forward with my life.
Yeah, get out on your own, basically.
I was already there, and then I got out and then had to come back there.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to make it work.
Right, with no shame in that. I mean, honestly, things never really go as planned. You know that, Mom.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, at that point, that was your decision. You chose to have me.
Yes.
You chose to move forward and create life, or at least move forward and have a baby, right?
Yes.
I think it must be hard knowing that you knew you were going to be a single mom.
Yes, and the hardest part was, not having a home of my own, having to live with a family member and knowing that I had to quickly do something, which I had no direction at that point.
Yeah.
I just knew I had to do something to grow from there. And that was the toughest, is the not knowing, but having the help, but then not knowing where and how things were going to end up for either one of us.
Okay. And so, needless to say, early motherhood was stressful for you, and considering the fact that you had this new baby, you were flooded with different types of emotions and different types of doubts in your mind. I'm sure you had to think about all sorts of different things. Financial responsibility, the emotional responsibility with raising a baby, the maternal instincts kind of kicking in, and then, I mean, what kind of support did you have?
Well, I just had my family member, my sister. She took me in for the second time, this time with a child in hand, and got me through as best as she could.
Yeah.
Helping me out there and being supportive with you.
Yeah, I'm sure you're grateful for that.
I'm very grateful, because if not, I would have had to.
Hey, I am too.
End up in a homeless shelter, because that was the case.
Yeah, it was either that or the streets, right?
Yes.
That's tough.
Yes.
That's tough.
Yes.
I mean, just facing the reality of knowing that, hey, I have this baby, but I myself am a baby. I'm 19 years old. Technically, observed by the law as an adult, but still, I don't have the knowledge enough or the wisdom enough to be labeled as an actual adult.
Yes.
And then, of course, lacking in maturity, I guess you could say, because you weren't. I guess you could say your childhood was also stunted as well too.
Very much so.
Your childhood was a very underprivileged, difficult childhood. So that being said, there was a time in my life and in your life where we were learning together. Basically,
yes.
I was a baby, obviously,
yes.
And I think you were learning how to raise that baby. You were learning how to nurture and feed and love and care for this little crying ball of joy, and then what were some of the what were some of the things that or some of the challenges that you felt like you had to overcome, or learning about a baby, or having to figure out about your own body, or even learning how to manage a boy, considering that you're just a girl, you know what I mean?
Well, that was easy for me really because I favored boys over girls for
Yeah.
some reason. Why I don't know. But when I first was going to have you and we couldn't tell what you were, I wished for a boy. But I don't think it was so challenging, nurturing. I didn't think motherhood was going to come easy, but it came easy. The harder part came as you grew up. You got your little character and your
Yeah.
own mind.
Yeah.
That was what I was not ready for because of my growing up situation.
Yeah.
I didn't have the good role models, the experience, so that I needed to raise you the way I thought I wanted to raise you.
Yeah.
I had an idea, but quickly did I learn that you have your own personalities.
Yeah.
And it took me forever to realize that you were a part of me and a part of him.
Yeah.
And I,
And by him, she means
the father.
well, yeah. I'd like to say his name, and I don't care if you don't care.
I don't care.
I don't care either. So, my biological sperm donor, his name is Jesse Cordova. And if this ever finds it to him, I don't know if he's still alive. I had the chance to meet him a couple of times, and I think it's funny because, I didn't realize how much like him I was until, my wife Yvette pointed it out. And it's funny because, like, I wanted nothing to do with the guy, and then getting to know him a little bit, he showed me his true colors, and it blew me away. I was just like, oh man, I'm just like this guy, and I can't stand him. I don't like him for a lot of reasons, mainly because how do you leave a family in the dust? How do you just turn your back on something you asked for, or claim that you asked for? How do you just not care? And then put the blame on the mom, or put the blame on the child, or put the blame on anybody but yourself for not wanting to pick up responsibilities, or wanting to be a man of your word. I think it's such loser energy. It's such beta male energy, or whatever you want to call it. That he just failed as not only as a man, right, but as a father, and as a husband, and as a provider, and as a person. Me personally, that's the main reason why I wanted to be a good dad. I don't think I'm the greatest. I don't think I'm, the best dad. I think I'm doing okay. I think I'm doing good. And considering that my son loves me, considering that, I have a relationship with my son. I have a beautiful relationship with my wife. And regardless of the rise and fall of the tide, I know that we're family. Yes. We're going to be there together. We're going to stick together. We're going to cling to each other through thick and thin, through times of adversity, or times of joy, times of sorrow. That's the most important thing, is that family clings to each other. I've seen the worst and the best of that, and quite frankly, to know that that's where I come from, that makes me incredibly sad. And I say that to you as a listener. If you feel that there's something inside of you that you don't want to be, you have to kind of cling to what you consider as a moral, or as some sort of standard that you set for yourself. Now, this next topic is a little bit of a rough one, because my stepdad enters the chat, right? Yes. Stepdad enters chat, and he didn't really like. I'll say it like this: he didn't really like the term stepdad, but I think it's the most befitting and righteous thing you could be called, considering that that's exactly what he did. He stepped up. He really stepped up, and even though he didn't like the phrase, it's the most accurate thing he could have been called, and I would have worn that as a badge of honor, because when you're a stepdad, you're stepping in and you're stepping up to the plate. You're becoming responsible for another person's life when you don't have to.
Yes.
I don't know how you feel about that, but I think that's commendable. You know what I mean? And if he were alive today, I know he'd have something to say about that, but to me, I feel it's honorable. And my dad was very much about being a man of honor. He was a Marine, and he's no longer with us. Quite recently, I've thought about him, I've dreamt about him, and I miss him. I miss him a lot. I think if I could have had him on the show, he would have had a lot to say about the subject. But he also, I don't think he would have badmouthed Jesse. I think he would have said what he truly felt about the man. But my dad was a man of honor, and at the end of the day, there's not enough to say about a man of honor that kind of highlights who he is as a person. And when it comes down to it, I'm grateful that you put him in my life, even though he wasn't perfect. Like, don't get me wrong, he wasn't this knight in shining armor, but at the very least, he was there, and he raised me. He got me to the point where I was old enough to get married and do the right thing, and he taught me, you don't just give up on family as well too. So I mean, I'm not giving him false glory, but at the end of the day, I learned from him. You know what I mean? That was my lesson, was to learn a little bit from this man who like I said, very flawed individual, but at the same time, was there for me. So the next topic I'd like to talk about is introducing a new man, my stepdad's arrival. What were your thought processes? What was the thought process when you brought Rogelio, Sandro? What was the thought process when you brought this new man into your life, and did you feel any kind of guilt or hope or fear or all of that, or none of that?
Actually, my life happened so fast from beginning until now, even, that I didn't have much time to think. But when I was looking at a relationship or even being proposed marriage, it was me looking to want somebody, a father figure for your life.
Gotcha. And it was just mainly having an adult role model, basically, a male role model in the home.
Yes.
So, I mean, no guilt, nothing like, oh man, I feel bad because of X, Y, or Z, nothing like that, or any kind of fear that came from introducing that person into my life. I see the hope behind there is like, oh, my son's gonna have a male role model.
Yeah.
And nothing like, oh man, I feel guilty because I didn't, my quote unquote person, failed to be a man, and now I'm introducing somebody else. Or you want to expand on that a little bit?
Sure. I didn't feel any guilt because, you were so tiny.
I was 1 year old.
Actually, 11 months.
Oh, 11 months. There you go. See?
11 months old when he came into my life. But at the time that I met him, you were visiting with the sister of mine, my oldest sister, that wanted to get to know you and see you. And I would have not have met him in that situation if you were going to stay with me. So I made sure that when you were asked to go with your grandmother, that you were going to go. And then I met him during that whole month that you were gone. And then things progressed from there, being that we only knew each other for 2 months before he proposed.
Wow. So he was in love. Like, he loved you.
Yes, I guess in love or in lust. I don't know.
All of the above.
All of the above.
Why not?
Yes.
That's okay, though. I mean, men are going to be men. You know what I mean? And honestly, I can see why. I mean, you're a great person. You know what I mean? You're fun. And you have a good spirit about you. And honestly, I know there's even though there's a lot of pain, in your heart and your eyes, like there's still this, jovial spirit there that, it's like I can see why he loved you so much, and I can see why he cared about you so much. He wanted to help, and he wanted to step into your life and give you, I guess a life you deserved or something better. And
I have to pause you there also just to let you and others out there know that he, at that point in time in his life, I was 22, he was 26, so he's 4 years older. He was ready to settle down, so he also was looking for marriage and a family.
yeah, yeah. And that's how the stars kind of aligned and y'all
Yes.
became to be.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, that's good. I mean, that kind of covers a good portion of that. Um, where was my father?
Off doing God knows what. After
Did you lose touch with him for a while? Like,
no, he did not want anything, and he made it clear he did not want anything, even though he was given multiple chances,
a lot of opportunities.
a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
From the get-go, since you were born, I snuck him into the house when I wasn't supposed to. He held you, he looked at you, had time to, see you, hold you, and try to connect as a family, and he chose to not continue on. So he had multiple before, during, and during, not after.
Now there was a fable that I was told, and I want to touch bases on that. And it was kind of funny. I mean, it's funny looking at it now, but I was terribly upset because I obviously I was lied to. It wasn't, you made it very clear that it wasn't your fault. My dad, or my stepdad at the time, said it was his idea, but I know there was something I was told about the situation that y'all were in that explained, me, I guess you could say. So saying that, I'm gonna kind of like lay it on the line, not for you to feel bad or anything, but just kind of like tell the people, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So when I was younger, the story went that you met Dad before I was born, and y'all fell in love, and then he went off to the military, went to the Marines, and when he came back, I was already born, and y'all got married after that, 11 months after that. So, or whatever, right? That was the story. Now, that was meant to kind of like explain, any kind of like issues in history or my history that I might ask. As to why I might ask that, I wouldn't know. Like there probably didn't need an explanation, but in any case, you tried to find, or he tried to find some reason as to claim me as his own, right?
Yes.
And mainly because he didn't want me to, I guess, suffer from the lack of having a father or not being wanted by a father. But it made me feel as if my entire life was a lie. I mean, for Christ's sakes, I believed this story all the way up until I was 14 when I challenged him and I said, I called BS, basically. I don't remember the exact situation, but I disrespected him and I called BS and I said, I said some harsh things. I don't remember exactly what I said, but you had to sit me down and explain the situation, and I feel like, I felt like a complete jerk afterwards because I knew then the truth, but I also felt like, wow, that hurt because you lied to me. You lied. How dare you lie to me? You tell me this fallacy, right? You tell me this false truth, and my entire life is a lie. And of course, there's the existential existential turmoil that your mind goes through. Like, who am I? What am I? What am I? What am I even doing here? Like, who is my real dad? And am I like him? Is he like me? Do I look like him? Does he look like me? And you go through all those weird moments and things, and you're like, what? Your life is flipped upside down. And that's exactly what happened to me. But needless to say, this was something you told me so that way I wouldn't have to go through that at a younger age. But I felt like, and I'll let you speak on the matter, but I want you to know, like, I felt like had you coasted me into that at a younger age, being like, "This is your stepdad," or "Your real dad is not here." Blah blah blah. It would have been less of a shock, like going from cold to hot, rather than you know letting me kind of acclimate to the idea that Roger wasn't my real dad, and there was a man out there who wanted nothing to do with me. You know what I mean? Because all that was just crammed down my throat and gave me a really bad case of heartburn.
Right.
You know, but I mean, what did you want to say on that matter?
Just to set the record straight, I understand how you feel.
Yeah.
I felt the same way.
Yeah.
I was betrayed. I went off. I was in school.
Yeah.
And when I was in school, I got home, and that was a story
you were going to
told you.
Like a tech school.
A technical school.
Yeah.
To better mine and yours lives when I met him.
Yeah.
But the lie that you were told, I had no choice in it. And it hurts me because there was no going back and undoing it. When I got home, I was told the story. And although I did not want to go through with it, it was already told to you. And you were so little. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
With all of that, I didn't know how to react. I was still newly married.
Yeah. It was like, what the heck did you tell my boy?
Yeah, it was all against my own will. It was something that him and his sister had concocted and reason being, even though the reason was the right reason, they still did it without my consent.
Yeah.
And it was made clear to you.
Yeah.
However they did it, I was not around. I was not home.
And that's okay. And like I said, this is just more of the and like I said, this is just from my perspective, and of course I want your perspective on that. So and it wasn't fair to you. It wasn't fair
to me, and it wasn't fair to you. But one thing I will say is that he didn't do it to be evil or mean.
I know the intentions weren't bad, but you know what they say about good intentions.
Yeah.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions. So I mean, needless to say, I mean, he still did it for himself.
Yes.
He still did it for himself.
Yes.
There we have it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. But at the end of the day, like I said, he was human. My dad was human, just like you are, just like I am. And there's nothing to be ashamed of in that essence, because you were still figuring life out. You're still figuring life out in your 20s, your 30s, even your 40s. I'm gonna be 40 this year, and I'm still figuring life out. And there's no set time. There's no set date for you to be completely complete as a person and say, "Hey, I know it all."
Yeah.
No one knows anything to that capacity. We'll never be all-knowing or complete in that way. We can get as close to enlightenment as possible, and that's by accepting, the difficulties of life, by saying, "Hey, I know life is hard. Life is a struggle. Life is an ongoing suffering, right?
Yes.
But I'm here to experience all of it and accept it." That's what enlightenment is. And you were still figuring your life out. You were nowhere near enlightenment. Now I think you're closer to enlightenment than all of us. You know what I mean? Because how old are you now?
60.
You were 6. She is 60, y'all. Look at that. And looking good. Am I right? In any case, I feel the need to say that, my life was still in the construct of things, because even though you tried to guard me or protect me, I feel like there's not enough that anybody can do to protect their child. You know what I mean? And you can still mess up and hurt your child trying to protect your child. So don't ever feel like you did something wrong or didn't do enough to do that. You know what I mean? Now, the next question is about the siblings, I guess you could say, the split dynamic. I'd like to talk to you about the emotional divide, or the unity between me and my half siblings, did you ever feel as if I was treated like an outsider, or did I was treated differently? Because I'll tell you this much: I know for a fact I was treated differently. There were several factors at play, but I know that I was treated differently. Did you ever notice it? And if so, did you ever feel like stepping in, or did you feel like you couldn't have?
When I noticed it, because it was so subtle and under the radar, um, was right at the breaking point of you being told that he was your stepdad and not your real dad.
Yeah.
So it was right at the threshold, like just stepping one foot over the line.
Yeah.
And it was like already too late
Yeah.
to do much. But yes, I did try to step in, but nothing worked.
It's like when dad took Art, to Mexico, and he left me behind, and
Yeah.
supposedly I was like, oh, I stayed
Yes.
asleep. He just didn't bother to wake me up.
Right. And again, like you can only do so much.
Or like giving Art a car, and then like
Yeah. And
and I'm
especially when
not helping me.
you're an absent parent working, and he at that point, over several years, he had 6 back surgeries within 10 years, so he was more at home at
Yeah.
one point
Yeah.
with you all. So, there's just some things that you don't see, and they're out of your control, and
You weren't there for that.
we
Yeah.
weren't there for that, and you get told a lot of different stories, until
Yeah.
you find the truth. I kept digging, and there's just, my thing was he wasn't being physically abusive, so I stayed.
Yeah.
You know,
Like he wasn't being physically abusive to you.
right,
Right.
right,
Now, needless to say, that references the fact that he was physically abusive to us, in the sense that he was overly harsh. He would use corporal punishment, basically beat the crap out of us. But it's okay. I mean, it's in my past, and that's where it stays, because here's the deal. And I'm gonna just put this out there for everybody to know. When he passed, I let a lot of that shit go. I let all of that go, because there's nothing you could do about it anymore. And we made our peace. He wasn't hurting me anymore, you know. And there were some times where it would come up in my dreams, where I would go through what I went through as a kid, but then I'd wake up and I'd be like, crying or emotional or whatever. But that's the stuff that does stay with you. But with time and therapy, I actually went to therapy. Um, it allowed me to let a lot of that go after he passed away, and in doing so, it allowed me to love him again, especially in death, because not having the reconciliation of saying, hey, I'm sorry I beat the crap out of you, or I'm sorry I ever laid hands on you or hurt you as a child, it's tough, right? Because, and I'm here to say this, she's apologized to me for doing that too, because and in some ways that's what she was taught as a child. She was taught to take a beating. She was taught to be hurt, and that
not cry through it.
not cry through not cry through the pain. And to be honest with you, when you learn that as a parent, as a child, you tend to teach that as a parent, and you teach that to your children, because the vicious cycle continues. And have I been guilty of spanking my kids and calling it punishment? Yeah, but I didn't want to be that person, and I learned from it. And my son can tell you, from this point on, that his childhood was overall just a really good childhood, and I didn't physically abuse him like that. You know what I mean? So, I beat the cycle. I tried to break the cycle. You know what I mean? So, I'm grateful that even though I went through what I went through, shaped me, I'm also grateful that it taught me a valuable lesson, and in that you don't have to be what your parents are, right? Because that's one thing that you wanted for me, was to not be like you, in the sense,
not be like your biological dad.
yeah,
Walking away, irresponsible.
not caring for my children.
Yeah, bringing a life and not even thinking twice about it, and you've accomplished that, and that's why I'm proud of you, because that was my biggest hope, that you wouldn't turn out like that, to break some young girl's heart and break a child's heart of always wanting to know who their dad was and whatnot. And you've done a really good job at that, and I thank God for that.
Well, you don't have to kiss my ass.
That wasn't what
no,
I was
I know.
doing.
I'm just kidding. No, but thank you, because honestly, like, I don't hear that very too often, but I know that. I know deep down inside, I'm doing my best, and it's nice to hear that from you. I mean, but I already knew that. They know that, and I say they, I mean you guys. So I appreciate it. Also, so in saying all of that, did you protect me enough? That's the next question on our talking point list. So at this point, I'm going to ask you directly, and of course respectfully, if you ever felt as if you failed me or failed to protect me, like my emotional needs as a boy, without my biological father in the home, or in this case, having a stepdad in the home and not being there, 100%.
As far as depending on how we're looking at it and who we're looking at, if we're looking at the biological side of you or the stepdad, as far as the biological side, when he said he was done and I knew it was done, and he was going to make sure I was, that I left. He told you I left. I left because he made me leave, not because I really wanted to not have him in your life. And after that, it was his choice to stay out of your life. So he got everything that he wanted out of me.
And you didn't force him.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And then, of course, not exacerbating any kind of further issues. You just didn't want him there to make my life even any more difficult.
He didn't want to be there, and if he was going to be difficult, I did protect you from that side by just picking up my big girl pants and moving forward.
Right.
Until I met your stepdad, and when he proposed and we got married, like I said, it was so subtle, everything, and it was over many years. And then, of course, how do you get to know somebody within 2 months, barely talking to each other, having to work? He was working at the time.
Right.
I was a five-year housewife in the beginning, and he was working. But, so as I got married within those 2 months, we all, you, him, I, grew up together, getting to know each other together as a family.
Right.
And like I said, it was very subtle, very quiet, and it wasn't more until your older years. I don't know when exactly things started. I mean, we were a generation, we grew up with corporal punishment, so we believed in it. We believed that it worked to a sense, to a point. I'm not trying to justify it, but it sounds that way. But that's the generation that we grew up in.
It doesn't sound like you're trying to justify. And I'll be honest with you, it doesn't sound like when you get backed into a corner, it's fairly obvious. You don't seem like you're doing that. But no, that makes a lot of sense. Being from the generation that you're from, I have to grant a lot of grace, considering that you were taught very incorrectly. You know what I mean? Like, and I'd be a monster to say, like, oh, you're a terrible person because you didn't know better. You know what I mean? There was a time in my early adulthood where I held it against you, right?
Yes.
And we didn't talk because of it.
Right.
And I felt like there was a lesson to be learned, because I felt like, okay, well, now you're going to respect me as an adult. Now you're going to kind of keep your distance and learn to respect. But at the same time, not knowing any better may not be an excuse, but it is a reason.
Yes. It
is a reason, like, for the same reason that, when I was a kid, I got in trouble for not knowing any better, but there was grace granted at times.
Yes.
So needless to say, I mean, I want to be a better person. I want to be a good person, progressive at the very least.
Right.
And saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to put all that aside. I don't care. And yeah, therapy helped. Yeah, I went through the pain. Yeah, I I was angry with you, right?
Yes.
But you know, understanding that you were still very a flawed individual, just as I am. I had to let a lot of that go in order to live a healthier mental lifestyle, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I think you did your best to protect me, and I'll answer that for you. I think you honestly did your best to protect me because why? I'm still here. I'm alive. You know, and not only that, look at the outcome. I'm able to say I understand you, despite not having anything other than perspective on your life. I am able to say I understand where you were coming from, and being able to be a well-rounded enough person to um, want and seek out perspective on your life.
Yes.
So I feel not only did you protect me, but you did a good job too.
As best as I could
Yeah.
for a 200 and something pound man
Yeah.
and my 4'11" self.
Yeah. She's tiny. I mean, you should see her when she stands up next to me. I mean, right now it looks like we're the same height. We're not. But it's funny because my son, it's very much the same. Anyways, moving forward. Um, the things you couldn't say then. So I'm going to give you a moment to kind of share things you held back from saying when we were growing up, regrets, truths,
Uh-huh.
and maybe a little bit of pride thrown in there. But I'm giving you the mic so that you can kind of say what maybe you didn't say. Maybe you're like you were a little bastard and you needed to. I don't know, but
No, I would never call you that.
no, of course. I mean, it's not the truth.
Right.
But like, I mean, any regrets, any kind of unfortunate truths, or something polarizing. I mean, even it's about your life, yourself, or my life, myself, or about my siblings, or even about how you felt about any of it. You know what I mean?
I don't really know. Like, I wasn't too in touch with my feelings back then. And like I mentioned earlier, my life happened so fast, even before all of that. And it just kept going, snowballing.
Do you think you maybe disassociated while
No, never.
parenting? Never disassociated?
Never.
Okay.
Never. That's one thing that I can say and hold my head up saying I didn't allow myself to, and I just didn't have it in me really, not even like allowing myself. I just didn't. Once you were born, that was it. Responsibility was mine.
Yeah.
And I know full well.
Yeah.
And I took to it as best that I could in my whole situation.
Right. Yeah.
Of not ever being in a stable home after I left my mom's house.
And that's tough too, because I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, and this is just more like introspective and more personal in your life. I mean, considering what you went through, the abuse you went through. I'm not gonna dive deep, and maybe this can be it for another time. But
Yeah.
I mean, did you love your mom considering how you were abused?
I would always, when I was asked that question honestly and truly, before I knew better, um, before I knew Christ Jesus, as He's a big part of my life and has been for many years, I struggled because of the abuse. And I would always, when asked that question, would say, I don't love my mom, but I respect her because she demanded and commanded her respect in a very harsh way. So until many, many years after the fact, as I prayed and sought God, if I really loved her, God showed me that I did. How is because when we were growing up, I tried to please her by doing the things that she asked of us so that she wouldn't feel like she had to beat on us or whatever. And that is a part of loving someone, is when we couldn't reach her by words.
So acts of service.
Yes. So when she would ask, whether she was at home or not, if she said clean this house and it better be clean when I get home, it was clean.
Right.
It was clean top to bottom.
I think that's more fear than anything, but also
it was fear, but from my heart, it was like I wanted her.
Look,
to
I did it,
see.
Mom. Look, I did it, Mom. I did it, Mom.
Yes,
Look.
I wanted her to see like she doesn't have to continue just beating on us. It wasn't even whippings. It was general.
It wasn't necessary.
Beat, and it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
Spankings, or, it wasn't spankings.
It was beatings.
It was beatings. She drew blood. All of us brothers and sisters have stories to tell.
Yeah.
But it's a touchy subject with the other ones.
I got you.
So I'm gonna keep
but it's still your life.
A limit. And it's still my life, and it's my testimony of where God saved me from, literally saved my life, my brother's life. There, and that can probably be another podcast for another time.
Yeah, I think we should. I think we can honor that. I think we should honor that at the very least, and kind of give you a little bit more insight into who you are as a person.
Yes. Yeah. I would like that.
I would love that. Now, love lessons from a complicated childhood. Now, at this point, I kind of want to reflect on how that upbringing taught you how to love, or the struggle with love today. I mean, considering, love's such a jaded word for you.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of resentment? Do you feel like as if, you ever had some sort of resentment towards those that wanted to show love to you or felt that they loved you? And then as well, did you ever feel as if you healed from that pain or, lack of love?
I am still healing today. It's a long process because, like I used to say, all those closest to me telling me that they loved me were the ones that hurt me the most.
Right.
And I don't say that jokingly. That's just the way it comes out, with a little chuckle, because there's no other way to say it.
Gotta laugh through the pain.
God, I've come a long ways, but I'm still coming. It took me a long time to come to terms with the word love, and it's one word. Me telling y'all I love y'all didn't come easy, because I wanted it to feel real and sincere. And when I was a new mom, it took me forever, and it took the help of my other son, your brother.
Yeah.
He was 14 at the time, taught me how to accept the words I love you, showed me how to deal with it, and I overcame. And I can sit here today and say I love you.
Yeah. That's a lot.
I can tell them that I love them because I mean it in my heart, and that it was a real tough subject for me.
Yeah. Of course. Now, considering, what you've been through, what did you see in me that I didn't see in myself? You raised me from a baby, innocent, helpless, right?
Yes.
To who I am today. I mean, and who I am today in large part, I mean, you're basically responsible for that. So if I'm a mess, I'm sorry. What did you see in me that I honestly couldn't see in myself?
Success. I mean, from the moment that I had you, I brought you home, and you were told, here's your son, take him home. I always looked at you, and saw, success. However, I was anxious for you to grow up in a sense, to see who you were going to become and how you were going to become, this person in life. It didn't matter. I wasn't looking for doctors, lawyers, even though, those titles are nice. But what I call success is just overall being a good man with honor and morals.
That's beautiful. Yeah, no, thank you.
And that's what I saw in you from the time and that was the man that I hoped you become, and you have. I can say proudly at this moment that it took a long time, and all this pain, but past the pain, I thank God for, your wife coming into your life and who she is.
Yeah. And
how she helped you in her way also.
Yeah.
God really blessed you with a really good wife.
I don't know about the morals thing, but definitely.
Yes, yes, we're going to just laugh about that one.
But yeah, definitely honor.
Well, as far as an overall man, I really hoped when I held you as that little baby looking at you and I was hurting because your father made his choices. I hoped and didn't know how I was going to instill it in you to stick with your family, that family matters, because I didn't even know how to do it for myself.
Right.
You know, but God made a way. I'm just going to, all credit goes to the Lord because
Amen.
even though it was rough for you there as an older teenager,
Yeah.
you did it. You did it.
Well,
you raised your son.
It's not over till it's over.
Yeah.
So I mean, here I am. I'm still working on myself. I don't want to take any credit until I'm dead in the ground, and if we join each other in the great dance hall in the sky, I'll truly know that, and I'm gonna say this. I'll truly know if I was a success, if I was a good man, because that's the measure of a man is his entire life behind him.
Well, what I mean by that, you did it and you made it, is that Damien is 18. He graduated. He's known you all to this point, from birth to this point, and y'all are continuing on. And that's what I mean as far as you did it, you made it. You didn't walk away, even though marriage is hard and it had its hard points and troubles and situations. You worked together so that your son can have his mom and his dad. And that's what I'm saying that you made. And that's what makes me proud in and of itself of you, because your son knows you. Yeah. And he loves you and he cares for you and he has his mom, and y'all are still a family as of today.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
to me it means a lot, because it hurts when anybody, a father or a mother, because nowadays mothers just give up their children so easily.
Yeah.
And I don't think any child deserves that in the world, but
of course
it
not.
happens. We live in a flawed world.
Well, I mean, we are flawed individuals. Yeah. Okay, so I thank you for that. I appreciate that. That was a very kind word. The next topic is, was I a good son?
Yes, overall, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I was troublesome. Let's be honest. Tell the people.
You were troublesome, but what family doesn't have, a certain situation of troubles, but overall, it could have been worse.
Yeah.
It could have been worse if you want to look at the overall picture. Yes, you did your little things and it could have taken you further down the darker road.
Yeah.
But you turned your life around. You made the decision, however you made the decision,
I'm still a pain in the ass, though.
Yeah, true be it. To a point. Who isn't? I'm still a pain in your butt.
Yeah.
To a point, but here we are making it through. Here we are able to laugh at it, talk about it, face it.
Honestly.
And that's the thing. Facing these things and being positive and moving forward, understanding what we're going through and saying, okay, enough. There's a time to be a child. You were a child. You were fun until you weren't. And then you were pregnant, and your wife was pregnant, you got married, and here you are. You did better. And overall, yes, you've been a good son compared to, if you want to compare to or something else.
So as a little bit of like to expand on that, it falls under the umbrella of was I a good son? What moments made you proud, and what moments broke your heart?
Oh gosh, I have to look back.
That's okay. Well, speak up for the people.
One of the proudest moments is when you finally made it and graduated. We got you through that point.
Yeah.
Disappointments. Well, if we're being true and honest, I never wanted a son to be smoking, like Canaan says, the devil's weed or whatever.
Devil's lettuce.
The devil's lettuce.
I partake in burning the fern. I enjoy the devil's lettuce.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You could say that. I mean,
I hated it with a passion, because I personally have never in my life.
We're gonna change that once I take her to Vegas. When I can take her to Vegas.
For my reason, and maybe you'll hear that as part of my testimony on
Yeah.
another podcast.
Maybe. We're
Maybe.
going to try to corrupt her a
Maybe.
little bit.
No,
I'm just
not
kidding.
corrupting.
I'm just kidding. No, there's nothing wrong. You know, the good Lord made this plant and put it on the earth because life sucks. And let's face it, it gets boring. Have a little bit of the devil's lettuce. This show's brought to you by weed. That's right.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, though, I mean, we all, just like I'm sure you're disappointed in me at one, you know, from beginning of being your
I'm not
mom
disappointed in you.
to now.
No, I'm just kidding.
There's been disappointing moments.
Yeah,
but
but
not
what
enough.
moment broke your heart? Like, let's just say, like, literally, it was like, ah, my baby. Why?
When we got to the point to where we couldn't talk.
Okay, that's real. That's
Yes.
real. Because let's be honest. I mean, I'm fun when I'm on weed.
Well, you're fun right now.
I'm fun now, but
yes,
I mean,
you're fun off of
you
weed
turn the
too.
volume up a little
Yeah,
bit.
we're not going to make this a weed commercial.
No, I know. I'm just kidding. But no, I can
No.
see, I can see that. I think that was equally something that broke my heart because I had to give up on you.
Yeah.
And I know you gave up on me at that point.
I didn't want to give up,
But you had to.
but I had to because you did.
Yeah.
And I understood we needed our
Time. Yeah.
But in my heart, I wasn't okay with it. Like I said, I was very naive growing up, you know, coming from the parent and how I grew up. And, you know, I just didn't know that all these things happen and how they happen. I mean, we literally rolled together.
You lived under a rock. You didn't even know about
yes.
ABBA or the Bee Gees.
Yeah, I had no life. My life.
And she grew up in the 80s. I mean, like, she grew up in the early 80s. Well, were you born?
64.
64.
19.
So by the 70s and the 80s, when they were doing coke and when they were doing blow and weed and all the cool drugs and the designer drugs and all the fun stuff, she was like, I don't know what's going on. That sucks. Because pop culture was literally invented while you were growing up.
Well, for me, it doesn't. I mean, I wish my life was more adventurous and
Yeah.
other things, but I was never really one because of the life that I had.
Yeah.
I didn't want nothing to do with alcohol. I didn't want anything to do with...
Well, you saw the worst of it.
I saw the worst of it.
On another podcast. I'm just saying. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, good. I'm glad you told me that because I honestly feel the same way. I think us not talking hurt, but it was an integral part as to why we are closer now.
Yes.
Right? Because
yes.
we see how fragile
yes.
a relationship can be. So when you put the work in and when you reach out and you love unconditionally and you say, hey, I'm not going to give up so easily.
I waited.
Yeah.
I just feel like I waited. I knew.
And I knew the time was right when I reached out too.
Yeah. I knew I had to give you your time anyways.
Well, I mean, Dad died, right?
Yeah.
Dad passed away, and it put a divide between us. We were split, and there was issues that came up, and it drudged up a lot of BS. But I'll be honest with you, like, you know, it had to happen. It wasn't going to happen any other way. It had to happen. It was one of those things. All right. So the next thing I would want to cover is cycle breaker or survival. Let's talk about whether you feel like you're breaking generational cycles or surviving them or still trapped in them. So for me, I feel that and I talked about this earlier, I feel like because of the fact that I was around for my son, I broke that cycle. How do you feel as a mom? You know, do you feel like you just survived, or do you honestly think you broke the cycle that your mom set?
All of the above. All of the above.
You survived and you broke the cycle.
I survived our mother. Survived not having a father.
Right.
We, my sisters and I, broke cycles.
Right.
To a point.
Right.
But to me, I broke that cycle. To me, I thought, you know, I was just spanking you. My mom really beat us.
That was an abuse.
Tried to kill us.
Yeah.
At points, you know. So all of the above.
Not only that, but your mom abused drugs and alcohol, and you really did it.
Well, alcohol, I don't know about drugs.
Well, I'm pretty sure.
Like I said, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I know for sure alcohol. We lived it, and that was her main thing.
Yeah.
And so it was first surviving, and then when I had you, it was breaking those cycles that I knew of to a point. And then what was the third one?
It was just survive or break those cycles. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Now, the forgiveness conversation. Mom, I forgive you.
I forgive you too, son.
I'd like to acknowledge the idea of forgiving the people who shaped, not only shaped me, but also hurt me, and how that includes both of us, right?
Yes.
I mean, honestly, I love you. I can't imagine a world without you. Matter of fact, imagining a world without you hurts. And I want you to know, like, I think of you every day. When you text me, it brightens my day. When you send me little things, like little reminders, little messages, I appreciate it. I love you. And I know we don't get to see each other every day. I know we don't get to talk every day, but at the very least, when we do get to talk, it's meaningful. It means a lot to me.
Yes.
So, I mean, honestly, I feel like the BS that we went through together, and the hurt and the pain that came with that BS, um, you know, despite life, the way things happen, I honestly feel like I've already forgiven you. There hasn't been a moment where I haven't forgiven you, and there was a time where I held a grudge, and it reared its ugly little head when Dad passed away, and I think I showed you that. So I just want you to know I absolutely love and care for you and have the utmost respect for you, and I will always love and care for you. There's not going to be a moment that I don't. And when that day comes, when you do pass away, right? You are no longer here with me, and I don't get those messages, or I don't hear your voice. There will be a void in my life, and I don't know how I'm going to fill it or reconcile it, or even um, heal from all that. But I know that I will always look back on the good times, the memories, the good memories.
Yeah.
The same way I forgave Dad, the same way I forgave his trespasses, I guess you could say, right? Mm-hmm. Is the same way I will remember you. I will remember you and keep you in my heart. The end. You know what I mean? Because truthfully, life is hard enough. Why would I, in death, why would I want to hold that grudge against you and make you feel as if you are a prisoner to the past when you're not?
Yeah.
You're dead and gone. Or, if you were dead and gone, I wouldn't want you to feel as if you were chained to that past, right?
Yes.
I'd want you to fly free. I'd want you to be,
I want to be free.
I want you to be amongst the cosmos with God.
Yes.
Rejoin the universe. Rejoin the plants and the dust and the wind, and
Yes.
and everything that is, God. And regardless of what heaven can be or will be or is, I want you to be able to move on in this life, knowing that you are not your past. You are not the things you did today, yesterday, the day before, or a year from now, or 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are not that. You are just Sandra. And to me, you are mom, you are love, you are home. To me, you're all of that. And I want you to know that. Because you're going to move differently knowing that. Like, you're going to move differently and feel differently knowing that I see you so much more than what you are. And and you don't have to hold that past against yourself anymore either. You don't have to feel as if I'm holding it against you either. I love you, and I've forgiven you deeply, deeply forgiven you, because you were just a kid. You were just a kid, and so was I, and we're doing our best.
Yeah. Thank you.
I love you.
Thank you. I love you too, son. I appreciate the words.
But I'm grateful that I ended up with the life that I had either way, because look who I am now. You know what I mean? And I think, um, you know, the biggest impact of all was having you for a mom. And honestly, I don't think I could have had a better mom. So I appreciate you and I love you. And
No, you could have had a better mom. No.
I love you, and thank you for being on the show. Thank you for joining us today. And
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And is there anything you want to say to the people listening? Love your mom?
Well, that's kind of hard to say if you don't, if you don't have that type of a mom
Yeah,
because
but this is a send off, so
I
just say something to the folks, so that way we can tie it up.
just be the best you that you can be if you've got the type of life that I had. Move forward with your life and break cycles.
Amen. I like that. Good job. Yeah. All right, folks. Well, thank you for watching. This is the way I see it. I'm Jeremiah. This is my mom, Sandra. You're supposed to say your name there.
Oh, Sandra.
Yeah, there you go. Sandra. All right, guys. Thanks for watching once again. If this is your first time listening, subscribe and follow for more.